So car manufacturers have gone through many cycles. Many have gone bankrupt over the course of many years. Unfortunately, a lot of those bankruptcies or Chapter 11 are often a result of poor management, products that are obsolete, people don't want them, overpriced, not the right product for the market. Maybe the timing is off. But at the end of the day, all of this seems to go in cycles. Today it's hot, tomorrow it's not. And unfortunately, we're about to embark on a place where we're starting to see a lot of these car manufacturers. We're looking at Stellantis, and in my own personal opinion, they're in a real struggle. They're going through a major shuffle, obviously at the CEO level, now with Tim jumping ship, who is managing the Ram products as well as Dodge, and now those brands have been shuffled off to another couple of leaders. Tim has been retired after 32 years, and you could look as deep down that rabbit hole as you like, but at the bottom line is there's been enough movement and shuffling at management levels in the Stellantis wheelhouse to know that there's something going on. But this doesn't just end with Stellantis, and I do believe there have been some struggles in the past, and they may be in front of some major struggles again. But it doesn't just begin and end with Stellantis. And I've been doing some research here, and I want to share some of the brands that have gone through some major catastrophes in the past and may in fact find themselves in front of the bankruptcy line once again. Let's take this from the top. I want to share some of these with you just as some basic information, expand on this slightly, and I'd love to hear your comments down below as to what your thoughts are, where you think these companies are, whether you do believe they're in line for another bankruptcy, and what it actually means to bail them out. Do they even deserve to be bailed out? I mean, with poor management style, overpricing on vehicles, and just becoming not relevant, might be a reason enough for them to go away. But let's take a look at the first one. Luxury car manufacturer Aston Martin has gone through 7. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bankruptcies over the years. But it wasn't until recently that Aston went into a state of bankruptcy shortly after its listing on the London Stock Exchange. Now, the only thing that bailed them out, because there are people that really have this brand loyalty to Aston Martin. It's one of those that go far back, branded and associated with James Bond, and there's sort of like this more of a feeling, not so much the sense. Nobody needs a luxury brand that is hovering on exotic. Nobody needs those vehicles in their life. People want those vehicles. And people are often buying out of passion rather than buying out of common sense. And as a result, the finances basically went down. But recently, 25% of the stock was picked up by a Canadian investor named Lawrence Stroll, who was willing to pick up the slack and keep the company in business. Clearly, it's a company that literally doesn't have enough of the gusto to stay in line. Now, not only that, we're talking about another OEM, another one featured in Britain, Land Rover, Jaguar. We know they're going through a lot of struggles. We've had Ford acquire that brand. We've also now have Tata Motors, which is an Indian brand, which basically has taken full ownership. And it's been shuffled around like a 2-bit. I'm trying to think of the name. Anyway, that doesn't matter. What we have here is Jaguar Land Rover is another luxury brand. No shocker there. Unfortunately, they're always ranking at one of the lowest for reliability, high cost of maintenance and servicing, and all of those are black stains for these brands. So is it any surprise when they're not competitive? When people want they want reliability associated with their luxury brand. People buy a luxury vehicle. They have all this romantic feeling about how good the vehicle is, the quality of the vehicle, and they're okay in spending that money if they're going to get what they believe is value add. But when you get a vehicle that just keeps punishing you financially, time in, time again, then people start to get bored of it, and it gets ranked very lowly, very low down the list when you talk about Consumers Reports and some of the other, obviously, reviewers. But with that said, the brand has had its share of financial problems. In 2008, the brand was near bankruptcy when Tata Motors acquired it from Ford. And we know Ford, they integrated a lot of their parts in there. They created some of the disasters like the X-Type. And we knew that was just almost an insult to the brand as a whole. So that was a Ford Mondeo. And as a result, a lot of people just sort of lost interest in the brand when it became more or less watered down. Tata Motors took it over, they flipped it, and now it's starting to make a bit of a comeback. Unfortunately, reliability isn't a whole lot better, but people are still kind of getting bored of the brand. And unfortunately, what we're seeing now is brands or makes or models like the F-Type is going bye-bye this year. And sadly, that's one of their best trademark brands. We know the old E-Type was historical from many moons ago. The F-Type sort of carried on the torch. but it wasn't still enough. People weren't buying enough of these vehicles. As amazing as it is, it wasn't enough to keep the brand afloat. And we've seen rhetoric all over Twitter or X that talks about the fact that they're probably going to liquidate, separate the two brands, Land Rover, Jaguar, so they can basically split them out, possibly sell one off, maybe re-enhance the other one. One is obviously the anchor and the other one's obviously got the horsepower. With that said, the acquisition was completed in June of 2008 at a cost of $1.7 billion. Now we're seeing the writing on the wall again. Unfortunately, Jaguar is getting rid of all of their great, internal combustion vehicles, going bye-bye. Now they've extended the production run of the F-Pace because it's an SUV and it seems to be popular, but the F-Type is going away this year, and now they're bringing full electrification. The worst part is now the writing on the wall with the EVs isn't good. We're seeing Mercedes-Benz struggling with the EQE, EQS, EQBs are not selling. Teslas are down, the stock is down. Even the Audi e-tron or e-tron GTs aren't selling well. And even when they do, the secondhand market doesn't love them very much because they lose 50% in their first year. None of these EVs are really holding up very well on the market. And that's not going to bode well. And especially when Jaguar is pretty much committed, canceled in all of their, other than the F-Pace, all of their internal combustion drivetrains. Where does that leave that brand? It's very interesting, and time will tell. So are they facing another bankruptcy coming up soon? Time will tell. I believe it's going to be more of a liquidation, selling off assets or possibly parts of the business, in my opinion, but that's just the way I see that. We talk about SsangYong Motors, enough said. We don't need to get into a whole lot of that. We know it's a very limited market that's watching these videos, but that's another one that's gone through some struggles. Now, one that we've talked about is a manufacturer, an OEM, that we know has been bailed out again and again. And that's a little bit of the insult to injury, because in a free market, if I own up a candy store or if I own start up a business, and I might be able to get a little grant or something, but at the end of the day, if I start up a business, I struggle, I put in, blood, sweat, and tears, and I keep that business going for 3, 4, 5 years. Finally, the business collapses because I don't have enough business, I don't have enough support, my profit margins aren't there, and ultimately I have to close the doors and go Chapter 11. Very seldom are governments going to bail me out. That just doesn't happen in private business. So then why is it companies like General Motors continually facing? They can get more aggressive in the sales, or shall I say more aggressive on the profits, maybe in sake of trying to maximize their profits. And of course they do keep a lot of employees busy, but the fact remains is it's more or less, even though it's publicly traded, it's still more or less a business. And a business, it's not typically run by the government. So why should it be supported, funded, and backed by the government? But it is. In 2008, the financial crisis smoked a lot of companies. We know that. And General Motors was no different. One of the largest car manufacturers in the world. We know they're one of the biggest. Volkswagen's a big one as well. Stellantis now, they have a whole host. A few of the big players, and General Motors is one of them. They filed for bankruptcy, had to be bailed out by the government. Is that even right? That doesn't feel right to me. But the US government invested $49.5 billion investing to cover them up, to basically bail them out. And they recovered apparently $39 billion of that after the fact. Got their shoes tied, got back in business. GM was on the hook to essentially give some of that money back, but the government didn't recoup the entire show. It also sold its shares on December 9th of 2013. In 2009, after 40 days of bankruptcy protection, the company emerged from the government-backed bankruptcy chapter. So they've had their ups and downs. They've had a few different bailouts. The government's really helped them along. And granted, some of that was paid back, but some of it wasn't. And I almost anticipate GM now, we know sales have been up. They've been selling some of their trucks. They're leading right now between Chevy and GMC, have outpaced Ford. But now they're getting rid of their last internal combustion vehicle, a car. And they're putting all their stock now in a lot of their other vehicles like full-size SUVs, Yukons, full-size pickup trucks, because that's where the margins are. That's where the profits are. And they're investing more in that space. But I truly believe at the detriment. Now, as of, I believe it's October, November, the Chevy Malibu is gone. We know they've already canceled the Cruze. And while the Trax is still hanging around, you could make an argument that's more of a subcompact SUV. But I think the days are numbered on a vehicle like that has a low margin. You mark my words, I believe that vehicle will be gone by the dodo bird as well. And the only thing that will reside in that really small space is a Trailblazer, or possibly even go EV with the EUV Bolt. And those are possibly the only vehicles, because electric vehicles, although they seem to be selling at a loss, there will be potentially more margin, and they have to have the EV contribution to the market, because that's where the market apparently is trending. General Motors is getting rid of their cars, and we know that, in my opinion, is going to be a detriment. But they may, in fact, be on the downhill slide. We know that people aren't buying the vehicles like a lot of these big OEMs are hoping. We know they were capitalizing. Market adjustment fees were a real thing, and people were overpaying during that shortage. People were willing to pay over sticker, and that's just gross. You should never have to pay over sticker. But what is sticker? Honestly, it's a number that the OEM pulls out of the hat anyway. So you can make all kinds of arguments that people paying over sticker, under sticker. But if the sticker price, MSRP, and manufacturer suggested retail price is so obscenely high to begin with, what is it? It's all out the window anyway. Sticker prices need to be dropped, they need to be lowered, and that whole K factor needs to reduce. Because sending a truck to market that has an MSRP of $89,000 just does not make sense. So this needs to start at the manufacturer's end. But people are buying less and less and less of these vehicles, and as a result, I truly believe, and we're seeing this, the trend year over year, full-size truck sales are going down. And while GM had a great first quarter in 24, the fact remains, when you look at long-term trending year over year, full-size trucks and large SUVs are trending downwards. So where does that leave the brands like GM? Well, trending downwards in sales. People don't have the money for these products, and now they promise to try to fund some of their new products in the EV space with the sales of their ICEs. So their full-size trucks and SUVs are going to fund the profits from that to fund the manufacture of their autonomous driving, as well as, their development of a lot of electric vehicles. But in doing so, there's a lot at risk. We've seen Mercedes, their new vehicles. In the meantime, they're trying to manufacture some of these new vehicles, these new EV vehicles, because they believe they have to get in front of that market. But in doing so, a lot of their internal combustion vehicles, C-Class, E-Class, if you've driven a late model one recently, you've probably realized it feels like nothing more than a skin of what they used to be. The doors are flimsier, feels hollower, parts fall off, panels fall off. I know door panels popping loose, switches popping off, speakers falling into the door cavities, body panels, rockers dropping when you hit a bump. Just should not happen in a modern Mercedes, but it's happening. So what we're seeing is a lot of these OEMs are literally funding the EV marketplace with their ICEs, and GM is no different. And as a result, I believe the quality is going to continue to dive down, prices are going to continue to rise, and that just leaves the middle class person like me or you, Lunchbox Joe here, just trying to get myself a decent truck because I need it for a contracting business, and I can't afford one because the 3% of the population that can actually afford a new pickup truck has to buy one with a leather and sunroof. And those are the folks that are buying them up. But I do believe those days are numbered. And so are they going to face a bankruptcy? Time will tell. But remember this conversation when we go a little further. Another one, Chrysler. Now we know there's no shocker there. Chrysler, we talk about what's happened to Chrysler and Stellantis and some of the, and obviously Ram, Dodge. They're all purchased. We have Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and some of these brands have all sort of amalgamated. So you've got a European overseer to a lot of these other manufacturers were conventionally domestic American vehicles like Ram, Dodge, Chrysler. So you've got this conflicting set of business models where Dodge and that management style cater to that type of buyer. And it's quite different than what you're seeing over in Europe, where they can flood the market and people are buying them up. But, they were more aggressive on the pricing. Here in North America, with UAW strikes, increases in labor costs, CEOs are charging so much. We know what these guys are making and these gals. CEOs of Ford, GM, Stellantis are making $30+ million a year. So there goes some of your profits right there. But that's just the head, big head. How many at the head table of a lot of upper management within these organizations? So maybe the top player gets $39 million. But what about all the henchmen that are at the next layer? They might be getting $20 million, $15 million a year. You start adding up all these fat wages, it's no different than government, fat and fluff and flounder. All of this fat bureaucracy is there building up, so they have to drive these prices up just to pay for all this fat. General Motors wasn't the only brand to go down. During the Great Recession in April of 2009, we saw Chrysler filed for Chapter 11 as well. Bankruptcy, in other words. And so as a result, they took $12.5 billion from the government assistance. Apparently pay about 11 and change back billion dollars to the government. But the fact remains is the government is always on the hook. You know, there's still a differential there, 12 to 11. There's still $1 billion or $2 billion. That's not chump change. And while it might seem like that, now we're talking in the trillions of dollars in deficits, but that's only recently where the government started printing money hand over fist. The fact remains is back in those days, remember, this was back when we talk about '09. That was a lot of money back then. So you have these scenarios where now in 2014, Fiat bought Chrysler, making it the Fiat Chrysler. And so Fiat, Alfa Romeo, and those all become more or less now transitioned over to sort of a Stellantis ownership group. This is where we have the big manufacturers trying to get in over their head. They have to charge so much, but the market can only bear so much. And unfortunately, that puts a lot of these OEMs in a snooker, in a tough spot. Nobody's feeling sorry for them. They're making money hand over fist. But at the end of the day, the end person, the loser in all of this game is the customer, like you, like me. We're the losers. I can't afford an $80,000, $90,000 truck today. Maybe if I win the lottery, I'm going to sign online. I'm going to go get me some lottery tickets, and I'm going to see if I can get a win out of this game. I need to try to win some. I'd love to drive a new truck. They're very impressive. They got good performance. Very nice. I don't need a sunroof. I don't need leather interior, but I like, the look of a lot of these new trucks. They've got good power and performance. I don't like the high insurance rates that tie to these vehicles, and I don't need sunroof, like I said, and some of those other widgets. But it's nice to have a new truck that's tight and sturdy and has the towing capacity and payload. I'd like a new truck. I just can't afford 90 grand for a new truck. So maybe I got to go win the lottery or something, because there have been some incentives recently, and we're seeing that now more so in the Ram front because they're not selling as many vehicles as they'd like to. We know their day supply is quite high, all over 150 days supply. So if you basically stop production today, it would take at least probably, well, how many months is that? That's 6 months? I don't know. Yeah, about 6 months to actually fulfill all the orders. It's clearly not in a place. They're not going to close the factory for 6 months. The way it looks, the day supply is rising, sales are dropping, the cost is going up, but also the cost of living is going up. Inflation's hovering steady. People don't have the money to pay for an $80,000 truck. Honestly, even a $60,000 truck. Even if you said, I could get you a fully loaded Denali for $45,000, which you can't. But if you could, hypothetically, there's the majority of people that would like a new truck can't even afford that. I think even for me to go pay $45,000 or $50,000, it would still be a struggle. It's still big payments. I mean, we know what $100,000 truck means. You're probably paying $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 a month. So if you're buying a $50,000 truck with a little bit down, you're probably still stuck paying close to $1,000, $800, $900 a month. And we got to talk about all the other costs to keep a vehicle. At the end of the day, are these OEMs faced in front of the bankruptcy crown again? I don't know. Time will tell. But it is a really interesting time. And I would say as the year goes on, from my perspective, this offers up some great opportunities to get a great deal. And like I said, I know a lot of people are struggling, but watch for those incentives. And I do believe as we see, as the year goes on, I know we've seen Ram. I showed you in one of my previous videos. Ram's already loading up the lots with 25s. Same with GM, same with Ford. They're filling up the lots. 25s are rolling in, but they've still got some 22s and many 23s still sitting on the lot that they're trying to incentivize that aren't selling very quickly. And so as the year goes on, you're going to see some great deals. So if you're in the market and if you have that money available, I always say, let's wait a little bit, wait it out a bit. Put more deposit or down payment down that you can. I would always strongly suggest at least 20% down if you can, and try to keep your payments below that 10% of your gross salary for the month as well. You know what? You don't basically want to outlive or outwork or outspend what you make. Basically is kind of the bottom line here. So, but there could be some great deals and at their expense. Now, again, we're not feeling sorry for them, but we do see that there's going to be some deals. We're also seeing that they're possibly going to eat some of the interest rates. Now, that's some of their levers they can pull, is giving you some, better incentive rates, because unfortunately, the reserves and probably the Bank of Canada don't look like they're really making any quick knee-jerk responses to the interest rate changes. So now that's going to be probably absorbed at the vehicle or the truck and car and SUV manufacturing levels. They're probably going to start absorbing to incentivize the sales of some of these vehicles. They're going to give you the 0 or 1.9%, but know that that doesn't necessarily come for free. If they're giving you 0%, they're probably going to hold a lot sturdier on their MSRP, or probably likely give you less off the base price of that vehicle. But you can carve these out, and likely you're going to get yourself a better deal as the year goes on. And just keep your eyes on the tab. I'm going to keep walking you through this, and I'm going to be sharing with you regularly some of the best deals and some of the worst deals. You know that on the channel. That's what I'm here for, is to give you some insight, how to shop for that, how to get the best deal, and some of the tactics to either avoid from them or tactics you can use to get yourself a better deal. So with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out that video right there. What is going on with Stellantis? Yes, the CEO is pretty much just gone. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.